How can a writer take an ordinary idea and transform it into what you call heightened concept?
By doing what Shakespeare did. So let's think about Shakespeare for a moment. Shakespeare started the Globe Theatre, and it was in a very dangerous, unincorporated part of London because it was illegal in London to have a theater because the royalty did not want common people hearing ideas because that could be dangerous. It was illegal. They would have been killed. So they did it in a place that was unregulated, not part of London. It was in a place where it was brothels and gambling, and people were murdered. And the people who were watching Shakespearean plays had never seen theater before because it used to only be royalty. So their standing is basically, unless they have any money, they pay a shilling or a pence, and they're standing in this huge pit, which is disgusting because there's no bathroom. So and it's the middle of the bubonic plague. So this is pretty disgusting. And this is what's really interesting. When we see a play, we know about the proscenial arc. We know that there's a stage, and when the lights go up, there's going to be actors talking. We don't talk to them, we listen. They pretend they don't see us. We don't interact with them, and we listen to the play. No one who saw a Shakespearean play knew any of that. They had never seen a play. How do you know that? I mean, they don't know that. So they're talking and drinking and whatever they're doing. And then these people get on stage and start talking. Well, what's to stop them from talking back? What's to stop them from getting on stage and interacting with them? There's only one thing that can stop them, which is the rest of the audience. The rest of the audience has to be like, hey, mate, shut up. I want to hear this. So Shakespeare knew he had to grab people's attention right away. Or, and I'm not kidding, his actors were going to be maybe murdered. And that's not a joke. These were rough, drunk people. Who knows what would happen? So he has to get people's attention like that, or this is very dangerous. By the way, if you want to succeed as a writer, you got to get the reader's attention like that, because as I have said before, studio readers, we are taught to read the first scene or two and stop. And if we don't have to keep reading, we don't. So you have Shakespeare's problem. Now Shakespeare, here's what he did. Actually, let me tell you what he didn't do. He didn't do high concept, because high concept is just bigger. Like, I'll do a story with these people and there's a meteor coming down or there's a murder. And because here's the thing, people who are watching that can't relate to that. And why would they care? There's a meteor coming. Like, so what? Like, that has no connection to them. That's the problem with high concept. Nobody cares. People have to make an emotional connection to want to read the next page or watch. But this is a problem. What if Shakespeare put characters on stage that the audience could relate to? For instance, a male character who has an overbearing father, and no matter what the character does, the father's never happy. And this poor guy is tortured and he can never make his dad happy. Well, you know what? A lot of the people in the audience could relate to that. And you have another character they can relate to. And what would happen? Your actors would be killed, because why would they stand in the filth watching what they could watch in real life? Why would they watch something that they can just see all around them in their life? That's not interesting. So we've got a conundrum. If we have something heightened, larger than life, which is what a lot of people like to talk about, nobody cares. If you use real life, people emotionally connect, but why pay for this? Why stand there? So Shakespeare invented a technique that is used today by all successful showrunners and feature film writers. He didn't go heightened concept. He didn't go bigger. What he did is he said, the only way I can hold their attention is by telling extraordinary stories. Extraordinary. Everyone wants to be extraordinary. Well, just think of the word. Extraordinary. You just divide it. Extraordinary. Extraordinary. So what's ordinary? It's something that everybody can relate to. What is extra? It is heightened version of ordinary. It is a heightened version. So for instance, have I ever been so freaked out about money, so scared that I can't survive, that I have been tempted to do something that's not exactly right? Yes. Have I ever done something that I felt wasn't exactly right? Yeah, a few times. And I have shame about that. Did I ever cook crystal meth and sell crystal meth? No. And I would never do that. But when I watch Breaking Bad, I have a guy who's just at the end of his rope and he's economically devastated. It's not fair. And his family's going to be devastated. And I can relate to that. That is ordinary. But this is heightened because he's going to die and his family's left destitute and he's going to cook crystal meth. So when I watch that show, I'm like, that's me, but that's not me. Like, I can relate to Walter White and go, yeah, I get that, but I would never do that. That's what makes the show so magical, because if I watch that and I go, oh my God, that's me, that's what I do, then that's painful. That's not, or The Office. Either one, but I'm just going to go with the Ricky Gervais version. So you got this character, and he really cares what everyone thinks about him. And when people are talking to him, he's always like trying to pass himself off as an expert. And he goes too far. He exaggerates too much, and he just tries to sound like everyone loves him. He's the greatest boss. But you realize he's just a sad little man. He's like the wizard in The Wizard of Oz behind his little curtain. Okay, can I relate to that? Yes. Do I care what people think about me? Yes. Do I sometimes exaggerate? Yes. Is it sometimes maybe a little pathetic? Probably. My wife would say sometimes. Am I delusional that I walk around claiming to do things I haven't done and just brag about things that have no reality? No. So when I watch The Office, I'm like, oh my God, that's me. But that's not me. And that's why it's fun and I can laugh, because I can identify with the pain, but I could be like, but that's not me. I'm not nearly as pathetic as that guy. So it's ordinary, but it's an extra version. Fleabag, I mean, the way she escapes pain is through inappropriate, sex, lots of sex. That's her pain avoidance. And her mom died, and it caused her so much pain that she sleeps with her best friend's boyfriend. Her best friend finds out and ends up dying as a result. And Fleabag now, because she had pain and she couldn't deal with her mom's death, the way she dealt with it was so inappropriate, she now feels responsible, I think justifiably, for her best friend's death. She obviously didn't try to kill her best friend, but it was a result. And now in the first season and in the second season, she's just trying to have more and more sex to try to disassociate and deal with that pain. Okay. Have I had great pain in my life? Yes. Have I done coping mechanisms? Yes. Is it sex? Not for me. Sex was never my thing. I mean, it was never my coping mechanism, but other things were. We don't need to go into that, but other things like being a workaholic, that's one thing. And when I've had pain and I've done coping mechanisms, has that negatively impacted people I care about? Absolutely. You know, back when I was a writer, I was a lot of pain. I would just be such a workaholic. I wasn't around my wife and I wasn't really present always in the relationship, and that's certainly damaging to her. So I watch Fleabag and I'm like, oh, I can relate to that, but I'm not her. I didn't kill anyone. I didn't do anything that egregious. So it makes it safe and comfortable to watch it. It's like, okay, that's an exaggerated version of me. So Shakespeare with Hamlet, here's a guy whose father is overbearing and Hamlet can't measure up. And the people in the audience can relate to that. But right out of the gate, we learn. Now, people in the audience are like, yeah, my family's really messed up and all this stuff is happening. But here's what's not happening. My uncle did not have sex with my mom and then kill my father to be with his wife. And then my father comes to me as a ghost and says, you must finally be a man and go kill him. Like, okay, my life's messed up and crazy, but it's not that bad. That's an extraordinary opening to one of the most timeless and successful stories ever, because it is an ordinary emotional experience that is made extra, that is heightened. Same thing with The Wizard of Oz. Dorothy loves her dog more than anything, and she's running from the witch because the witch is going to kill her in Toto. And the only way she can get what she wants is she has to go at the witch. She has to attack the witch with no plan of how to defeat the witch. Well, we all have to do that in life. I mean, this is film Courage, so let's talk about courage. I mean, we all have our demons. We all have our witches. And we all want things. We want to be successful as writers, or successful this way, or be successful husbands and wives or parents. We want to be successful, but we want to keep running from the things that scare us the most. And guess what? The only way to really be successful is to stop running away from what scares us and run at what scares us. And that's the only place. That's the courage. You want to talk about courage? There's your courage. Well, I can relate to that. And I usually run away. Sometimes I run at. I didn't have flying monkeys. I didn't have a witch. I mean, that, especially as a kid, even now, the flying monkeys terrify me. So when we watch it, we can relate to it, but it's heightened. That's what I mean. It's a heightened concept. And that's what Shakespeare did with all of his plays. And he had to. And it's the same technique that the Coen brothers used, the writers of The Bear used, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Tina Fey, Vince Gilligan, Jenji Kohan. And when you learn to do it, then we can add, hopefully, the characters and the stories that are in you. We can add that and impact on the world. But the question is, film courage. Do you have the courage? Do you have the courage to go there? Do you have the courage to do that?